Oh, everybody, that looks about right on the screen. I hope it's right. Welcome back to Cursed Side. I think in this video we're gonna finish the story, question mark? I feel like we're about to finish the story. It's not because of, I think, how long that game is. It could be way longer still. Like it could be a huge plot story, but from the reviews time and also from like the achievement amount, like it looks like we should reach an ending soon. Anyway, let's hop in. What was? Alright, that is the... It is this one, right? Yes. Yeah. There we go. The next morning. Don't try to cough, breathe and talk at the same time. I don't know what the hell that was. Next morning I visited the pond to find Solo apologizing at a fish she had scooped up. With a heart like hers, I doubted she would ever make much of a hunter. Mion had followed me out of the tent, but as I approached the pond she stopped wailing in my steps. I actually wanted to cling to her sleeve like kindergartner. Whatever. But it looked like she had decided to let me resolve this my own speed. Just realized that the font in the bottom is not completely on this. Now I see a little. There we go. About right. I should move that thing also the mouse cursor away from the screen. Good morning, guy. Solo stepped out of the pond with water dripping from the tips of her waist-length hair. You know, when Mom and Dad sold me to East Harvia, I really hated them, I said. But thinking back, I met some pretty okay people in the temple. Peeled over my shoulder and shot me and only glanced away, blushing too much. But a portion of my heart still wanted me to hate Solo. I vanquished the thought and barely managed to smile. Still breathing anyhow, so stop hating yourself and start living freely. Solo stood speechless with her shoulders hunched. I must have really confused her. Despite spending the entire night coming up with the coolest speech ever, when Solo stood before me, my words came slurring out like a baby vomiting food. Eventually Solo's lips curled into a smile. She jumped in and threw her arms around me. Brother! Brother! Big brother! My name is Mokuba! Shut up, Mokuba. Anyway, Solo, being a baby when we separated, had zero recollection of me, yet she still gave her best effort in this reunion. I played my part in return by running my fingers through her hair. She expected me to start calling Solo's sister, try calling a stranger your uncle and see how weird that felt. For now, I just wanted to look after Solo as a friend, because boy, did she need looking after sometimes. I glanced over my shoulder again to see Mion smiling with both hands cupped over her chest. Did I say the right thing? I wanted to ask Mion and see if she might give me a lollipop. Well, if I had failed in her eyes, she probably would have already thrown a dead rabbit at me. Yep. Sound of advancing footsteps put me on alert. I let go of Solo and turned to find Neek dashing up to us. East Harvian soldiers, Neek said panting. Saw them in the forest heading our way. I knew this day would come. In fact, I should be grateful it took this long. But now that the soldiers were upon us, I wanted to write a hate mail with Locke's name on the envelope. For a while I thought the king had grown a heart and decided to set us free. What a laugh. The only thing he had grown was a beard, I bet. Solo started running in the direction of our camp. Nick called at her to stop before I could. Forget about the camp. The first place the soldiers will tear apart. Comics, Solo. You put your heart into them. Come on! Nick grabbed Solo's hand and told her in the opposite direction. The trailing nods, Mion and I trailed them. The four of us sprinted along the forest with no destination in sight. I gave my best effort to keep running and ignore my scorching lungs. If I was alone, I might have surrendered. With me on here to share my fate, I'd crawl and eat dirt if it came down to that. A minute later, Zulu dropped onto her knees and gasped for breath. Nick stopped in his tracks to stroke her back, but he too had sweat seeping out of his pores. Mion also gave up on running and both hands cupped over her knees. Skin looked so pale, I feared she might throw up. Pressed one hand against the tree trunk for support, reaching for air as if worried the others might inhale them all, leaving none for me. Once my breathing settled, I heard the footfalls of armored bulls in the distance. Every second we wasted here would allow the soldiers to close the gap. Our camp, no doubt, would have been discovered by now. Those tents would confirm our presence to the guards. We'd never afford to sleep in this forest again, let alone set up another post. Nick's help, Zulu climbed back on their feet. My legs are cramping up. Run back on your own while you still can. Zulu said in a commanding tone that matched their bout as well as Locke matched honey and flowers. What? Nick should have said. Even when I returned to Westaria now, I'd be branded a traitor. Go to another village then. Zulu covered her mouth, probably realizing this was the worst time possible to shout. Clenched her fists inside the quivers. No town would ever welcome someone with powers like mine. You need to go alone. Nick extending a quivering hand towards Zulu. I've sworn to stay with you until the end. Zulu swung arm to keep Nick away. Stay with me and be killed by East Tyrant soldiers? I gave you an order, Nick. Zulu, please. Get away from here. Biting his lip, Nick ran off like he had been told. Tears streamed down Zulu's cheek as she watched him go. Thank you, Nick. Already long enough. No one left to offer her handkerchief. Zulu had to settle for wiping tears with her sleeve. The soldiers must have received orders to take Mion alive, and Zulu would prove just as valuable to the king. As for killing me, well, the guards might feel more remorse stepping on a snail. Mion turned her head in my direction, perhaps wanting to send me off after Nick. I shook my head before she could speak. Don't even think about it. If I wanted to leave you behind, I would have done so a long time ago. What guy, you silly thing? Mion said. Just a matter of time before we get caught. What should we do? Safe? There it is. Stop hiding. Keep hiding? Stop hiding. Let's stop hiding. We're out of time, I said. You might hate me for saying this, but you need to go back. Ian opened her mouth as if wanting to argue, yet no words came out. Really not different from handcuffing a loved one and sending her back into prison, but I must follow through as further resistance might pull us all at risk. A dozen soldiers emerged from behind the trees, sprinted in our direction like they'd found the prizes in a game show. I wanted to start running again, just to see their ear guts sweat. Guards formed a circle around us, and the one with the most badges on the shoulder blades support. You're coming home, Mion. Put a hand out in front of Mion, but she pulled it back and shook her head. To the guard, I probably looked about as intimidating as a grasshopper wearing boxing gloves. Another soldier rubbed his chin as he looked at Zulu. What's the treasure of Westaria doing here? Third soldier sneered. Bringing a hat to the king would earn us a nice holiday bonus. Commanding soldier smacked his underling across the head. Fool! She's much more valuable to us alive. Zulu hid behind Mr. Guard extended his hand toward her. Sorry, sister, but he stood no chance against these soldiers. You would have better luck mimicking a wolf's cry and seeing if some of them might rock up to your aid. Guard grabbed a handful of my shirt and tossed me aside like food wrapper. Just as he began to coil his fingers around Zulu's hand, a figure leaped out from behind a tree. The soldier sprang back and unsheathed his blade. Tears streaked down Zulu's face as Nick stepped in between her and the commanding guard. You can always count on me, Nick said, peering over his shoulder at Zulu. My word is gold. The guard snickered as Nick pulled out his sword with trembling hands. His legs chittered so much. Thought he might start an earthquake. Rather than putting on a deep voice is uncool, Nick stayed true to himself for once. Right now, he looked brave enough to take on everything, perhaps even those baby birds he feared so much. The commanding guard brandished his blade. Go on home before you cut yourself, kid. With a yelp, Nick swung his sword at the soldier. Two blades clashed, causing the guard to stumble back. Either the goddesses had smiled upon Nick, or he actually knew something about combat. Whatever the case, there might be hope for us after all. The three vanished when a second guard snuck in and slashed Nick across the back, spilling his blood all over the grass. Nick! Nick! Zulu screamed as Nick crumbled into a pool of his own blood, covered her veil despite knowing it was too late. Zulu tried to break free of my hold. With the guards ready to take her hostage, I held her back even if she might curse me for it. Stared at Nick's body, praying to spot at least an inch of motion. His body no longer heaved to draw breath. My knees buckled as I knew beyond doubt that I was looking at a corpse. One by one, the guards shifted their eyes towards me. Commander spoke on their behalf. It's you who's caused us all this trouble. There's no wait to need for a sentence. We'll cut you down here now. Those words sapped away my strength, causing me to lose grip of Zulu. Jumped in front of me and spread out her arms as trying to scare the guards away. That moment, my heart accepted her as my one and only sister. Just came a little too late. Pulled Zulu back and squeezed my eyes shut. Please let me act like an older brother in my final moments. By telling Mion to return, I had already signed my death sentence. Enough! Mion cried. Everyone, including guards, spun to face her. She had been so quiet that I thought she might have snuck away during the commotion. Mion picked up Nick's blood-soaked blade and pointed its tip at her throat. You heard him? I killed myself right here. Try explaining that to King Locke. Guards gathered to discuss this matter. After a brief exchange, the commander sheathed his blade. Have it your way. Mion dropped his sword and hurried over to me. Zulu meanwhile collapsed on her knees beside Nix's corpse. Come with us. I'll make sure to keep you safe, Mion said, but Zulu shook her head. When I offered Zulu a hand, she shook her head again, this time more vigorously. We're going back. Going back to East Tavia, Mion said to the guards. Any of you touch Zulu, I'll take off this veil and do me all with my curse. That threat made even the guards shudder. I was in no mood to rub it in their faces though. In all these years, not once had I seen Mion use her powers to scare others. It must have painted to have broken that record. Muttering under his breath, the commander strutted off with his henchman in tow. Our lives had been spared for now, at least. As Mion and I followed a glance back at Zulu, who remained on her knees by Nick's side. The wolves might snatch her for dinner if she stayed here, but that could be more merciful compared to whatever schemes Locke had plotted for her. I considered dragging Zulu with us, just so I could keep her by my side like a pet. Some kind of brother I was. Should be the last person to steal away her long overdue freedom. In the end, I left Zulu be and trailed the guards back to East Tavia. Please, sister, do everything in your power to survive. Wait. I mean, I guess I misunderstood the language there because I thought we were gonna take Zulu with her no matter what. Or maybe it was because what she would say that like because they're all afraid of the curse, like I mean they could. Why? But messing with her might be too dangerous. Most of the lanterns that once lit Melody Way had been sliced apart, leaving the village in darkness. Should be grateful as these shadows spared me from having to see the corpses strewn about town. The bad stench of decay still burned my nostrils. The guards ahead lit torches to illuminate the path before them. One of the soldiers gazed back at Mion. East Tavia is in this shape because you ran off. I hope you're pleased with yourself. Might just be the torchlight playing tricks, but I thought the guard's eyes flared as he said those words. A man doing his day job to pay the bills could never look this fierce. Perhaps he had lost a loved one to the war. Almost forgot these guards had families too. Mion said nothing to the guard, saw her hands trembling, stared at her shoes as they shuffled along, as if ashamed she had been a bad slave to her people. The villagers muttered to one another while we strode past. Their feet barely left the ground as they walked, making them look more like ghosts than people. They called it time and some brats hurled rocks at Mion, but tonight nobody even said a word to her. It turned into a prison at last. Unlike Melody Way, the temple seemed unfazed by this war. Big surprise that Locke would care for himself before his people. Sasa was alive, would at least have one reunion to look forward to. Without her, I almost regretted not provoking the soldiers into cutting me apart like fish fillet. I tailed the guards up to the entrance of Mion's room. After throwing the doors open, the commander shoved Mion inside, forcing her onto her knees. I went past the guards to try to reach Mion, but one of them pinned me by the arm. The king wants to have a word with you. Yeah, that's not gonna end too well. Just gonna save here. Mion locked in her room, the guards could keep her on suicide watch. Thought that would signal my doom, but the king let me keep my head. Not out of mercy, mind you. Just needed me around to tape Mion's spirit in place. Locke gave me a lecture long enough to put his scholar to sleep. By the time he dismissed me, the sun has already set. As I bowed to the king for sparing my life, I imagined stitching his mouth together so he could never speak again. After leaving the throne room, I headed straight for Mion to let her know I had survived. I counted at least 10 guards as I started past the corridors. They all frowned at me as if disappointed the king had let me live. A couple of guards barred the entrance to Mion's room. They stepped out of my way too slowly, and I bumped into their shoulders as I stomped by. Locke decided to keep me around. These fools could do nothing about it. I pulled the 2 doors open one at a time. As soon as I walked in, Mion went up to me. The king forgave you? I nodded. Guess I got off lucky. Mion tugged at my shirt and exhaled in relief. At least one person in this temple cared for my well-being. Without her, I would have been locked away in an asylum long ago. Suddenly Mion gasped, and I knew she must have noticed. I put my left arm back, but she seized my wrist and forced me to show her the bloodied, bandaged stump that had replaced my hand. Ah, so we just lost a hand. Guy. The king? The way Mion's voice cracked made my heart splinter. Guy! Guy! Seeing Mion wail like this almost hurt more than having that saw come down on my hand just hours ago. I wrapped an arm around her back, and from my other hand I wanted to stroke her hair, but I realized that hand was no more. Really, I got off lucky, I said. It doesn't even hurt anymore, so stop crying, okay? Right after saying that, the wounds and the sharp pain up my spine as if to chide me for lying. Winded my eyes and blobs of tears came rolling out. The guard outside opened the door just wide enough for him to peek in. No more freedom, even within these 4 walls of Mion's room. The temple used to feel like a prison, and now that actually turned into one. Doing daily chores with one hand proved to be pretty tough, but compared to Mion being forced to support the war, my struggles deserved no pity, even when the wound stung enough to make me cry, gritted my teeth and fought on. Besides, the other servants always backed me up whenever I fell behind. They had been saying things like, Mion's become so much nicer since you came back. What did he do? Some of the other servants in St. Comfort whenever I walked by, they probably faulted me for taking Mion away in the first place. Maybe I should be fair and guide them into the forest and send their sorry behinds into a pack of wolves. As the sun descended, I went to pay Mion a visit. Like always, she came up to me the second I opened the doors. How are you feeling today? Mion asked. I could almost see her frowning through that veil. Before I could answer, she pressed me down onto my knees and started to massage my shoulders. The massage was good. I don't know, I accidentally skipped. I knew she did all of this out of guilt, yet I never managed to talk her out of it. These days, I no longer even tried because, well, I did kind of enjoy having a girl pet me to sleep during my afternoon naps. Mion had opened up so much that I worried the other servants, or even guards, might become interested in her. I would fight them all in a cage at the same time if they dare touch her. Well, maybe if they attach a chainsaw to my left arm. I like how they mention stuff like that, but it doesn't seem like that we're in like a time where chainsaws exist, you know? Any weapon would certainly look more presentable than the stump I had. When the saw came down on my hand, it had chopped off a chunk of my courage as well. Otherwise I swore to Sasa's spirit that I would confess my feelings to Mion. Another evening of chores came to an end. I headed into Mion's room, hoping to receive a massage before calling it a night. The room was empty. Well, save for a tiny spider on the ceiling that made me flee to the corridor, where I bumped into a patrolling guard. You look like you've seen a ghost. Nice try, kiddo. I don't believe in that spirit stuff. God said, but his cross necklace and bracelet told me very much to believe in that this is a spirit stuff. Mion's not in her room, I said. Is she on toilet break or something? God shook his head. I never saw her leave the room. Pulled out his cross necklace, pointed at the doors and mumbled a chant under his breath. Taunted the guard. What? You think a ghost kidnapped her? God ignored my question and continued to chant. Jeez, why pick the night shift if we were this paranoid? Strode off to search around the temple. Locke no longer allowed me to wander around, but she must have bribed the guards with cookies or something, I told myself. I searched room after room without result. My heart rate quickened along with my pace. The male toilet? No way. Tried the female ones next. But I'd screams as soon as I poked my head in. Bucket flew out and hit me on the head before I could retreat. Found plenty of beetles crawling around the temple at night, but not even a glimpse of Mion. Maybe she was hiding in a closet somewhere? About as likely as Locke handing out chocolate, but I should still do another search. Just as I was about to start, a guard came running toward me. The king summoned us to his chamber. Be there at once. The guard ran off to spread the news, affording me no time to ask him what was up. By the time I arrived in Locke's room, most of the guards and servants from the temple had already gathered. Locke had never summoned up this late into the night before. Whatever the news was, he needed us to know right away. The audience usually liked to whisper the speculations, but tonight, nobody dared to speak a word. Locke cleared his throat even before he already had all of our attention. The letter has arrived from Vestavia. Our treasure has been stolen. The audience broke into concerned mutters. Locke lifted his hand. The crowd settled once more. Guy, step forward. Locke said, and everyone turned toward me. Well, those who knew me by name anyway. My heart was already beating fast enough without the stairs. I ran through the crowd and presented myself to the king. Are you responsible for this? Locke asked. I shook my head so hard I thought my neck might snap. Locke leaned forward and gazed straight at me. Even through the curtain I could feel his eyes peering for my soul in an attempt to unveil any lies. Locke leaned back against his chair. Vestavia summoned you to meet the queen. Alone. The audience began to chat again. Vitalia suspected I had played the role in Mion's kidnapping. The first one? Yes. This time, truth to the goddess, I had no idea. Locke pounded a fist against his armrest. Which one of you was on duty to protect our treasure? Soldiers traded looks to try and dump the blame on one another. They pushed out the guard I had been talking to before, superstitious one with charms all over his body. Paranoid guard dropped onto his hands and knees before Locke. I swear, I never took my eyes off those doors, but please have mercy. Locke ignored him and pointed at a couple of guards in the corner. You two, escort Guy to Vestavia at once. Two guards bowed in acknowledgement and made their exit. Move it, Locke said, looking right at me. Take back our treasure or never show your face here again. Well, the best way this could end, we end up by the queen. We're getting rid of the Eastavian guys and we are reunited with both of them. That would be my plan right now. Right, because I was totally going to miss this place. Might even send you some souvenirs from Vestavia, Locke. With a nod, I followed my two escorts out of the temple. I could have at least asked if I needed to pee before we left. To be fair, even if I needed to visit the loo, I would have chosen to wet myself instead. Every second I wasted meant more time for those Vestavians to abuse me on. I'm pretty sure if the wait, actually what happened to our sister? I would assume our sister's back in Vestavia, but I'm not sure. The rain pattered against the guard's armor plates. Meanwhile, the droplets soaked my shirt and pants, making me shiver. At least the rain seemed to be slowing down. If not, I might catch a cold by the time I reach Vestavia. While we passed Melody Way, the guards bought some booze for the road as if we were on a trip. I knew these buffoons would show their true colors once I left the temple. We walked through the forest. The guards took a break every half an hour to sip on their bottles and argue over who the sexiest servant in the temple was. Could have sworn I'd seen both of the guards with their wives and kids before. Damn low lives. If anything happened to Mion, I vowed I would come back to smash the bottles over those guys' heads. The brains already seemed damaged beyond repair anyway. The sun rose from beneath the horizon, paving the earth in an orange glow, and at last we had arrived in Vestavia. "You're on your own now, kid," one of the guards said. He and his partner spun around before strolling back into the forest. Fair enough, since the Vestavians did ask me to come along, but still, I hope these guards ran into tigers on the way home. The war had almost torn my birthplace beyond recognition. Spears impaled the towering trees that had watched over me as a baby. Flowers that once freshened the air he had long since withered. Only the warm weather managed to remain untouched. This place too used to have stalls lining both sides of the street, but only a few of them remained open now. Body bags piled along the road. I doubted anyone was in the mood to shop this place. The same stench of death seized Tavia. In fact, the smell seemed worse here than in the east. Mion's return to East Tavia, the war must have swung back in Locke's favor. Did that mean Zulu never made it back in the west? Mion and my thoughts had forgotten to keep an eye out for Zulu in the forest. Maybe she had been living there this whole time. Sister, where you were, please be safe. As I walked along the street, the villagers eyed my East Tavian garbs from top to bottom. At least nobody threw tomatoes at me. In fact, some of them even said hello, albeit in small voices. Startled by the greetings, I only managed nods in return. In times like these, hearing a good morning felt like receiving a bag of gold. These Tavians rarely greeted each other, let alone say hello to anyone from other nations. Sensed a touch of pride for being a Vestavian native. The second I reached the temple, a Vestavian guard marched out to greet me. "You must be Guy." I nodded, and the guard led the way as I followed him inside. Being the soldiers here made my legs shake less than those East Tavian ones. The flower patterns on their uniforms might have helped, I must admit. Crossed paths with Queen Hydriane. The guard escorted me to a porch where a tall woman sat with a teacup in her hand. Since the soldier bowed before making his leave, I figured this must be the Queen of Vestavia. Queen Hydriane, I believe the name was. Hydriane wore a flower hairpin rather than a crown, but her floor-draping dress indicated her status well enough. Even the chair she sat on had gold flowers carving along its frame. Those other seats around the table looked just as glamorous. "There's no need to act foreign," Hydriane said. Now before I heard syllables in the sentence pronounced this precisely. Despite the queen's beauty, I noticed signs of wear on the skin under her eyes. Her nation in pieces, I bet she had been losing plenty of sleep. A familiar set of footsteps sounded to my rear, turned just in time to see Mion running up to me. We were alone on the porch. I saw who the fucked her right now, looked up and down to check for injuries. Mion patted me on the arm. "I'm fine." And in a small voice, "Sorry to make you worry." Hydriane chuckled as she put down her teacup. "You really are as cute as Mion said. She's been talking about you non-stop since you got here." Okay. Blushing, Mion reached for my arm with two fingers, looking like she wanted to pinch me. But Hydriane's presence must have made her hesitate, and she changed the subject instead. "I came here by will, Guy." Hydriane nodded. "I sent over our best spy to snatch Mion from your temple. Desperate gamble, truth be told. Mion had resisted. We most definitely would have failed." "Came here to see Zulu," Mion said. "She's here?" Tugged Mion's sleeve. The queen rose from her seat. "Let me take you to her." "No." Well, Zulu had indeed returned home, and with Nick too. The fact that their graves rested side by side served as my only comfort. Our soldiers found both of their bodies in the forest, Hydriane said. Zulu appeared to have passed from starvation. It has to be a mistake, I said. Min struck my back to try and calm me. I seized her by the shoulders. There's no way Sulu would have starved. It was her who found the fish pond. You remember, right? Mian pursed her lips, looking too terrified to answer. Only then did I realize I had been shaking her. I let go and leaned against the pillar for support. The truth was, I had asked Mian in hopes that she would make up a line to cheer me up. Inside, I already knew Sulu must have starved herself to repent for Nick's death. Silly girl. She never considered how Nick would feel about that. And I taught Sulu to cherish herself. Thought I'd passed the trial of being a brother, so much for that theory. Damn it, Sulu never asked for the stupid curse. The three of us returned to the porch. Once we all sat, it ran put tea for Mian and I. Sulu's death has toppled the balance between our nations. Victory will now fall on whichever side Mian stands with. And that's why you kidnapped her, I said, almost wanting to knock over the tea Triana had passed on to me. For all I knew, the drink I might have sprinkled with enough poison to kill a horse. Triana showed us her palms as if to say she had nothing to hide. Vestavia has no interest in conquering the East. We only wish for the war to end. You and Mian are both welcome to remain here with us. Triana sipped on her drink. The tea all came from the same pot, so maybe there was no poison after all. If we faked Mian's death, King Locke would lose the will to battle, Triana said. Pardon my rudeness, but in a fair fight, he knows I'm the superior tactician. And what if we say no? I asked, expecting guards to march in circles after the spears. Triana appeared in face and continued to drink her tea. If you decline, I'll set both of you and Mian free. I've already made the mistake of imprisoning Sulu. Never allow such a thing to happen again. Locke treated Mian like a tool, but he did keep her well protected. If I took her back now, the king might even give me a lolly for rescuing his treasure. For Triana claimed she would let us go, and she couldn't change her mind or simply be lying. Gazed into the queen's eyes, hoping to catch some signs of deceit. Then again, if it was that easy, Conradis would have gone extinct centuries ago. Mian turned toward me. Let me hear your thoughts, guy. What is this? Oh, it has to be unlocked. Fake death. The goddesses gave us a second chance to escape from Vestavia, I said. This time, we should hold on to it. Mian nodded. I'd rather die than return to that prison. Triana rose from her seat and put a hand onto each of her shoulders. This temple is your home now. As the Queen of Vestavia, I swear to keep you both safe. During the first few nights in my Vestavian bathroom, I hardly managed to get any sleep. I feared that once I dozed off, the Queen would send a guard over to drive a blade through my chest. Hopefully Mian had my advice and had been staying alert too. Under normal circumstances, resting on a pillow this soft would put me to sleep in no time. Now, however, I feared this pillow too might be part of the plot. Spotted plants lined against the wall exuded a natural aroma, but I refused to let them put my mind at ease. Keep the blinds open to wait for any assassins trying to sneak past. The few evenings, fatigue chipped away as my resolve, and I slumbered until Mian woke me up to complain about my snoring. Yes, we stayed in the same room. No, we slept in different beds. Stop jumping to conclusions. Another dawn came, and still Triana had shown no signs of betrayal. Mian and I stood in the porch and watched as the sun surged from beyond the distant hills. Folded my arms over the railing and inhaled the morning air. The garden before me looked like a scene from a painting. Bees buzzed around the flowers that colored the yard in a rainbow of shades. Maybe it's okay for us to believe in her, I whispered. Mian nodded. I'm so tired of having to put up a wall against others. Indeed, I too wanted to quit being so untrusting, even if it meant I might regret it later. I'm going to ask the Queen for permission to become her servant. Mion placed a hand on my wrist. You've been a slave long enough. Maybe for so long that it's become a habit, he said. Without any powers like yours, this is all I can do to make myself useful. How did the ritual last night go, by the way? Snow shall fall tomorrow night, just as Queen Hydrian had asked. Hopefully the children will finally have something to cheer over. Mion put her hands on the railing. At last I can use my spells for things other than violence. The sun now hung over the village rooftops in the distance. Its light bathed Mion's cheeks, giving her a warm appearance. Birds chirped inside the garden's trees. I put my hand over Mion's. Sasa must be watching over us. Mion flipped her hand around so she could lock her fingers with mine. You've been thinking about her too? Every damn day. Sasa used to always hold our hands like this. Without her, we could no longer form a triangle. We would always remember what she had done for us. After much pleading, Hydrian allowed me to become a servant, not meaning to brag, but the staff in this temple had plenty to learn from me. The cooks sometimes confused washing powder with salt. It was a miracle no one died from their meals. One morning, as I swept the floors with two of my fellow servants, I heard them exchanging whispers. King Lox committed suicide. I saw it in the papers. No way, for real? Wait down, hang on. You even know how to read? Sam punched his pal on the arm. Obviously. Well, enough to read the headline anyway, probably, I think. Stepped in between the two servants. You guys read something about the king? Yeah, we're not sure though. Both workers scrambled off the broom someplace else. All the servants had been keeping their distance, just because I happened to be Zulu's brother. What did I think? I might have the cursed side too? I had Hydrian visit to see if she knew anything. One of our spies just made a report, Hydrian said. King Locke has poisoned himself after hearing news of Mion's death. I always thought Locke kicking the bucket would make me want to celebrate, but it was different when I played the role in his suicide by faking Mion's demise. Goddess, I could almost see and smell the king's blood on my palms. Hydrian put her hands on top of mine. It was I who snatched Mion away from the king. The responsibility falls with me. At midnight, I snapped awake with sweat dripping off my brows. Mion came over to rub a hand across my back. Even in the dark room, I could see her skin appeared pale. About as white as Locke's decayed flesh must have looked right now. I would know. Having just met the king in my nightmare and all, in my dream as Locke coiled his cold fingers around my neck. The flesh around his nails rotted away and exposed the bones underneath. Skin on my neck, then I rolled it off as if the king's touch was acidic. Good thing I'd screamed myself awake. I would have been reduced into a skeleton. Mion often said she had the blood of thousands on her hands. I now got a taste of how she felt. Just a spoonful, which was more than enough. Perhaps I belonged in a dumpster for saying this. But if I could toss my blame onto Hydrian, maybe I would. As these nightmares haunt me until I joined the king inside the coffin, buried my face in my hands, determined to never sleep again. Ending 2. I would say that is the good ending. I feel like you should feel no regret for the fact that the king killed himself. Like, this should be like a reason to celebrate. You should not be feeling any guilt or any remorse about it. You cut off your arm, Sasa got killed, so many things happened. Like, there's no reason to feel any remorse. Like, none at all. Alright, let's load and let's do something stupid. Go back. As much as I hate Locke, he has kept you alive and well for nearly 2 decades, I said. Mion nodded. Safer that way. I only wanted to protect Mion, but my decision also meant sending her back to a prison. If she wanted to feed my hands to the hounds for it, I would have no complaints. Hydrian a wore a defeated smile. It's your freedom, and you have my word. You're both free to go. Should I send along an escort? I'll be fine, thank you, Mion said as she rose from her chair. Looked at it as a signal to get up as well. Mian bowed, and he turned with leaving, but I only gave a nod. After all, still had no idea if the queen might be hiding a knife under her sleeve. He was the good one. As Mian and I strode past the temple corridors, I kept turning my head to check for signs of hostility from the guards. None of them raised their spears or blades, and we left the temple in one piece, just as Citriana had promised. Mian and I walked through the village, kept glancing back at the temple, clearly having second thoughts about the decision. The queen did keep her word to let us leave, I said. It might be better for us to turn back. Mian shifted her gaze back to the gravel path ahead. If I faked my death here, King Locke might try and pull something desperate, about far more than just me. We made our way back into the forest without exchanging another word. The bush path all looked the same to me, but whenever we hit an intersection, Mian always knew which way to go. He must have the way back to his Taharia memorized, to explain why she told the queen no escort was needed. I'd always wondered if Mian possessed photographic memory as well as the cursed sight. He was the brains, and I was the broomstick. When people mentioned Mian's name, they thought only of her powers, but I knew she was so much more. This normal schoolgirl should be grateful Mian never got to attend class, because she would have outsmarted them all. Mian leading the way, we arrived back in East Taharia by the afternoon. Mian marched across Melody Way as she looked forward to returning to her cage. I, of course, knew the real reason behind the speed. If she slowed down, she might change her mind, and she'd be stranded in between both nations. She moved her legs so fast, I never had time to ask if she might regret this later. Mian ran from East Taharia again. The entire nation might crumble. Like she said, this was about far more than just her. The truth felt like a fork to the eye. Once we arrived at the temple, the guards took Mian from me, as if wanting to claim the credit for themselves. They told me to see Locke, so I headed straight into his throne room. I'm surprised you actually pulled it off, the king said. Sure, any time, my lord. If our treasure back where it belongs, victory will surely be ours, Locke said, probably more to himself than me. This was a fairy tale. The king would have learned his lesson, never treating people like tools again. In our case, Locke made Mian work overtime to catch up on all the rituals she had missed. Every time Mian cast a spell to support the war, another dozen kids were left without a father. Some of the rituals even dumped mothers and their children into body bags as well. At least those families got to reunite, I guessed. It was my turn to clean Mian's room this morning. I wiped the windows until the glass looked so clear that a couple of birds actually smacked into it. If I must break both with my wrists to cheer Mian up just a little, I would gladly do so. Before leaving the room, I stole a peek at Mian's sleeping face. She needed at least some rest for her rituals to be effective. Otherwise, Locke probably would have duct taped her eyelids open and forced her to work from day to night. Any second now, a guard would barge into her and nudge Mian awake so she could resume her duties. Maybe I should tie myself to the doors, but if I did, the guards would just cut me in half. At night, once the chefs left the kitchen, I crawled in like a roach looking for food. Came here for a different purpose though. The lightning, just enough lanterns for me to see, stole some chicken wings from the fridge and started frying them. Mian had always resisted fried foods, something about how they filled her foreheads with pimples. With that way alone, nobody could see her forehead anyway, but it seemed to bother her a lot. Still, in all the years I spent with Mian, no matter how angry she got, she would never go fried food at me. That meant she must have a soft spot for them. With the hair Locke had been putting her through, she deserved to be pampered for just one night. The fried chicken smelled so good, I ate one in secret before sliding the other dozen onto her plate. Better get moving, or I might end up eating them all. Surprise! She either died or she killed herself. This is my assumption how the story's gonna end. Mian either killed herself or she died from all the rituals. I would assume she killed herself. As I strolled past the corridors, one of the guards snatched a piece of chicken off my plate. I hoped it choked in the bones, but at least this proved that I had cooked up an irresistible meal. My heart held high. I marched into Mian's room. But the fried chicken smell would already have waved inside, causing Mian to press her face against the doors. Instead, she remained on her knees and said only one word. Guy. Thought we had long since graduated from this awkward greeting when I put the blade down in front of Mion. She never even gave it a glance. None of this is your fault, so don't let it get to you, I said. Mion only shook her head in response. I had picked a bad day to sneak in a snack. Fine, only feared a good day might never come again. So picking up my blade, I retreated toward the kitchen, this time with my head hanging as low as it could go. The last lantern light by the sink flickered out as I walked in, leaving me shrouded in shadows. I lowered my blade onto a table and picked up one of the chicken wings. The shoe went cold fast. I raised the ring toward my lips, but then it put back down without opening my mouth. These were made for Mion, not me. I would have forced her to eat, but staying in the room felt more uncomfortable than bumping in the lock in the toilet. I felt as for Mion and I barely knew each other. If Sasa was still around, at least she would have known what to do or say. She would have said, "Why the fuck did you go back, you idiot? Why did you say that?" She would kill us for that. As I tilted my blade and let the chicken wing slide in the bin, I felt my heart tumbling into the trash as well. A week later, during lunch, an older servant stomped up to me in the dining hall. "Are you the one assigned to clean Mion's room yesterday?" The servant folded his arms as I rolled my mashed potatoes and whipped my mouth before answering. "You got the right guy." "Those windows are so dusty they might as well be walls." The servant smacked his hand against my table. "Go do it again." Holding my eyes, I shot up from my chair and shuffled off toward Mion's room. He was a younger servant. I would have flicked his nose for speaking out of line. I knew full well I did half-assed job, but when the room's owner showed no care, that attitude was pretty contagious. As I arrived outside Mion's room, I remembered how terrified I'd felt the first time I stood on the spot. Today, the same feeling had returned to haunt me. With a few knocks, I pulled the doors open and stepped in. Mion, sitting on her knees as usual, looked like a hornet's nest to me. Might get stung if I stared for too long, so I walked past her in silence. I blew on the windows and coughed at the dust that sprinkled on my face. Mion sat there without saying a word. First it was Guy, and now nothing at all. Even with her veil on, I used to be able to decipher her mood from her body language. Now with her sitting as still as a spider on its web, she had sealed all her thoughts from me. I kneeled behind Mion and looped my arms around her. "Please. Trying to make me lose it." "Guy." "I'm sorry," Mion said. She never even turned her head to face me. Next morning, Locke summoned everyone from the table in this chamber. "Vestavius officially surrendered. The nation belongs to us now," the king said. None of the guards or servants clapped with any real enthusiasm. Who knew which country the king might try and conquer next? Single victory meant nothing to us. Locke slapped a hand against his armrest. "Quiet!" Rarely, if ever, had I heard Locke raise his voice. The man shocked us all into silence. "Vestavius' treasure has already been lost," Locke said. "He must have known about Zulu's death then. Without it, this is all meaningless." "Why? Why? Just be happy." The king, keeping to his word, did nothing as his nation collapsed around him. Every time I shopped in Melody Way, I spotted more homeless families than before. At this rate, they might outgrow the flies buzzing around town. I tried to myself for making such a comparison. Did Locke really want to possess Mion and Zulu that badly? Both of the powers he might have been able to conquer the world. Returning to the temple, I dumped my groceries aside and prepared breakfast for Mion. Even if she shunned my efforts, I must continue to find joy in serving her, otherwise I truly would have nothing left to live for. As I carried the plate of egg and sausages toward Mion's room, a guard seized me by the wrist. "We no longer need to feed the treasure." "Mion's a person, not a treasure." I tried to shake the soldier off, but my strength was no match for his. "King's orders," the guard said. "If you have a problem, take it up with him." Barely managed to resist throwing the breakfast at this guy's face. Really, Locke was the one who deserved to have his head smashed in. With all that Mion had done, surely she wanted better treatment than a pet goldfish. Threw my plate on the wooden floor, causing the shatter. "There! Can I go now?" The guard loosened his hold, swung his arm aside and jumped into Mion's room. We are out of here, said the second I walked in. Guy? This place no longer deserves you. It never did. I dropped to my knees and closed Mion's hand in mine. We never should have come back here. This is all my fault. Mion's fingers trembled inside my palm. You only did it to keep me safe. Nope, not at all. Just because I'm a bad person. I don't know why I did it. Come on, we're leaving this place. Put Mion on her feet. She said nothing, but she offered no resistance. Either that would have to suffice for a yes. If she remained here, she would really die of starvation. Took Mion's hand and led her out of the room, for I assumed it would be the last time. We walked past the corridor. None of the servants or guards bothered to stop us. None of the kind no longer cared for Mion, neither did anyone else. In fact, they never did. Could escort Mion back to Vestavia and help her take revenge against Locke. Surely, the same fault must have occurred to the king. Yet he showed no care at all. It was like he had lost his will to live. Why did Zulu's death devastate the king that much? Keeping Mion around, he could have lived to fight another war. We better get out of here before the same thought crossed my mind. Mion and I reached the temple entrance, held my breath, expecting a guard to stop us at the last second, but no one ever showed up. At least an ant might have gotten trampled as it tried to crawl past. To those people, we no longer even existed. In the past, whenever Mion showed up on Melody Way, the villagers would cower behind the nearest wall they could find. This time, they were this little more than curious state. These towering ruins they had themselves to worry about now. I trip back into the forest. Not once had Mion uttered a word. I had made her pawn open to me once before, and I vowed to pull it off again. At last, Mion belonged to me alone, in a world that had fallen into shambles. That was my only consolation. Ending 3 unlocked. Alright. So we got ending 2 and ending 3. Now, let's try to go for ending 1. I just keep hiding. Returning to the temple would be worse than death, I said. Mion and I nodded, but we resumed swooning. Zulu remained still. I have no strength left to run, Zulu said. It's gone without me. What are you talking about? I lowered my back for Zulu to climb onto. When she hesitated, I barked at her to hurry, and she hopped on at last. Zulu should have been light as a leaf, and on any day she would be, but not when I had already exhausted myself from the earlier sprint. Brother, just leave me. Zulu muttered. I ignored her and shuffled along the dead path. Mion darted ahead, pausing once in a while to glance back and give me time to catch up. At least she never asked me to abandon Zulu in exchange for her freedom. I forced my muscles into working overtime through sheer will. Despite my efforts, footsteps closed in from every direction. The soldiers would catch us in minutes, or seconds even. The maze of trees came to an end. That must be the exit. Oh goddesses, thank you for your mercy. Once we left the forest, we might be able to find another village. Even a town full of cannibals would do. I turned out this exit on the left to a cliff edge. Oh goddesses, curse you and your cruel jokes. Had I already forgotten about Mion and Zulu's powers? No village would have taken us in anyway. After putting Zulu down, I walked up to the cliff edge. A long drop led to a raging sea filled with boulders sturdy enough to twist a man's limp into creative ankles. Once through wind, I could stumble right off this cliff. I noticed Mion shaking from either sadness or anger, most likely a bit of both. Determination could overcome anything in the storybooks, but reality only laughed as it tore the pages into scraps small enough for ants to eat. I grabbed Mion and Zulu's hands before pulling them behind a nearby bush. The shrub barely reached up to our necks. If I spat at the grass, maybe it would grow a few more inches, or perhaps I just gave it up already. It doesn't ease towering guards much from a distance. I had hoped to never see those armor sets again, but I guess fate had other ideas. The soldiers searched the area we had stood moments ago. In a few more steps, should be spotted for sure. I could feel Zulu's shoulders shivering against mine, swerving be such a useless brother, but I too trembled from fear as well as regret. No matter how I tried to deny it, a part of me wished I had fled for my own freedom. Mion whispered in the Zulu's ear, "Keep you guys safe." Before I could react, Mion climbed out of hiding and confronted the soldiers. With a hand hidden behind her back, she signaled us to escape. Stupid Mion, never gave you the okay to use yourself for distraction. Zulu clung onto my arm to stop me from jumping after Mion. Would send Zulu flying with the swing of an arm, but my thirst for survival stripped away the strength. Proof that choosing my pathetic life over Mion's. Well, luck must have ordered the soldiers to keep Mion alive. Fast wounded at point like a pole in a tsunami. Still, the guards might get rough with Mion if they touched her. I swore I would snap their necks like I did with the rabbits I hunted. Mion broke into one. The soldiers showed no interest in giving chase as she was dashing straight up for the cliff. One of the guards let out a gasp. "Stop her!" Without hesitation, Mion leaped off the cliff edge. Zulu covered my mouth to suppress my scream. Dizziness consumed me, and I soon blacked out. I choked, my eyes snapped open. Surely the soldiers on the forest must have sliced me apart while I passed out. In that case, the afterlife sure did resemble a West Harwin room. The blue walls and flower-textured carpet reminded me of my childhood home. Bigger version of it anyway. Oh, and fancier too. I surveyed my resting on a pillow with my gold flower carvings in both hands. I'd almost forgotten the softness of having a pillow pressed against your hair. Alright, to be fair, luck did have the grace to give us pillows on New Year's Day, but it might have been every second or third, just whenever you felt like it. A vase of flowers rested on a table by the window. These flowers exuded a fragrance that almost made me tear up with nostalgia. The scent of my birthplace, Westavia. Birds chirped outside as if to welcome me home. Sunlight peered through the blinds and strained my eyes, forcing me to avoid my gaze. So, as I looked under my blankets, I noticed I was wearing West Harwin attire too. My gloves resembled what Nick wore, just minus the shoulder blades. Speaking of Nick, what happened to him? How about Zulu, Mion? Thinking of Mion's name brought back my version of her plummeting off the cliff. The rocks didn't see. Must have fought over her shoulder who should claim her. No, I refused. It was my memory when sitting in bed alone made my head spin. The vision of Mion must have just been a nightmare. A man walked into my room. He wore clothes just like mine, so he must be a West Harwin. As soon as he saw me, he rushed back outside. "He's awake!" I recognized the patterns of Zulu's footsteps running toward my room. She dove through the doors and threw her arms around me. "Brother! Brother!" Thought I'd lost everyone I knew. Either Zulu and I managed to survive somehow, or we had reunited the spirits. The latter seemed more plausible. Where are we? "It's the West Harwin temple," Zulu said. We fell unconscious and had dragged away while the soldiers were searching for Mion's remains. Zulu hung her head. We need to be honest, sent out a search party of our own. If our guards hadn't found us, we would have never gotten away. I had stopped listening after that part about Mion's corpse. My memory turned out to be pretty reliable then. It sounded like I'd taken advantage of Mion's death to save my behind. Jumping off the cliff after her would have been a better option. I shook free from Zulu's embrace. "Please, use your power to bring back Mion." Restoring the dead requires a tremendous amount of energy. Even if I traded my life, it may not be enough. "Take mine then." She seized Zulu by the arms and started shaking her as if coins would roll out of her mouth. "My life for Mion's. Would that do?" Zulu's lips quivered, looking like she wanted to cry. "Stop making me worry, brother." Despite being the younger sister, Zulu managed to show me composure, more composure than I. Even if I forced into her swapping my life for Mion's, I would no doubt chicken out at the last second. I let go of Zulu and buried my face in my hands. Zulu put a hand on my shoulder. "Even if we resurrected Mion, she'd just be imprisoned back inside the temple." I slipped under my blanket to hide it from it all. Inside the darkness, I waited to hear if Zulu would come up with a miracle plan. For several minutes of silence, I peeked out and found no one left in the room. Wait, losing Sasa and Mion, managed to show my pathetic side to Zulu as well. Should just starve myself right here in this room until I expired. Despite saying that, by nightfall I was nibbling on the potatoes and lettuce left for me by a servant. I should have known I lacked the guts to end my life. The food here tasted like plastic, but hunger told me to shut up and eat. What convinced Mion to give her back in the forest? She would still be here today, but I chose running instead to save my hide. Mion forfeited her life to protect a parasite like me. Fatigue overcame my self-loathing, and I collapsed to sleep. knock on the door woke me up the next morning. Offered no response, but the door slid open soon after anyway. In came Zulu with a plate of sandwiches in her hands. I don't deserve to be treated as well, said as Zulu put the plate on the table next to my bed. The my outburst yesterday, thought she would never want to see my emotional face again. You're my only family, so I'd leave you alone, Zulu said. Gave Zulu a few head pats, that never failed to make Zulu smile in the past, but today I could almost smell the vibe seeping out of her like insect repellent. Hey, thanks for saving me back in the forest. Sat up on the bed and planted my back against the wall. Guess I should also thank you your king for letting me live. Our king has been unwell as of late, Zulu handed me a sandwich. As for Queen Hitriane, she understood after I explained everything. Should go and greet her later. The queen had the capacity to empathize. That had already made her goddess compared to Locke. Still, she must have given Zulu orders to ward off me and spells. The man she had played departed as his death. I placed my hand over Zulu's. It's my fault you're stuck back in the temple. Zulu gave my hand a light squeeze. When I was alone, I still would have come crawling back here. Think you're a coward, brother? Then we must really be siblings, because I'm not different. Zulu too had whimpered at the face of death. Salvaged comfort from the fact that she shared my weakness. The thought struck me with guilt as if it plucked roses out of a garden. Never should have sent Nick away. Tears began to roll down Zulu's cheeks. You're always welcome back here, Nick. Make sure the queen forgives you, so please. I reached under Zulu's veil to brush the tears off her face. Wherever Nick is, I'm sure he's fine and annoying everyone around him as usual. Zulu put on a shaky smile that knew she had forced on for my sake. Enough of all this sad talk, Zulu said. Let me take you to Queen Hitriane. I climbed off bed and followed Zulu out of the room, so we strolled along the courtyard, admired the garden to my side. Flowers here came in every color you could think of. Each one glistened with water droplets, and some had grown as large as a baby's head. Behind these flowers, the towering trees, despite their age, looked vibrant in color. If a painter had picked shades too bright for her palette, this might explain why the air smelled so fresh here. The wooden planks in this place barely creaked as we stepped by, yet not another point over the East Towering Temple in fact. The planks looked so well polished, I could almost see my face reflected in them. Here she is, Zulu said. Just make yourself at home, brother. Zulu took me to a porch filled with gold-studded chairs. A tall woman sat on one of these seats, sipping tea from a silver cup that might be worth more than every servant in my temple combined. The woman's flower hair glittered in sunlight. Her dress looked befitting of a royalty, so I guessed this must be Queen Hitriane. That, or a princess more like. She was a lot younger than I had imagined. Her skin looked paler than mine after seeing a spider. I failed to spot a single blemish on her face, though to be fair, I recognized makeup when I saw it. Queen Hitriane, meet my brother Guy, Zulu said. Hitriane smiled at me and noticed she had a coat of lipstick on. Her every poke reeked of royalty and reminded me of my servant status. Can I join Zulu and me for tea, Guy? Hitriane asked. She pronounced every syllable flawlessly if she was the inventor of her language. Oh, Miss Perfect, I felt unworthy of being in your presence. Are you surprised? Zulu stepped into the porch and took a seat opposite the queen. Queen Hitriane might be royalty, but she treats everyone as equals. Hitriane furrowed her brows. If I'm as kind as you claim, I never would have pressured you into using your powers for the war. You only did it to protect our nation, Zulu said with a lowering head. A little bad for running away, actually. Pouring Zulu some tea, the queen gazed towards me. There's no need to be afraid, Guy. Though I kept my guard up, I at least managed to nod. I'm just shocked the queen is this young. That is, unless I'm mistaken. Hitriane kept a smile, but I caught her lips twitch. I pushed the issue. I might have faced a punishment worse than anything Locke could conjure. The queen told me to not be afraid, yet she gave me every reason to keep my distance. Zulu rose from her seat and pulled me over to the table. She gestured me to sit, but the chair looked so fancy I feared it might scream if a slave like me tried to touch it. Zulu gripped my shoulders and pushed me down, forcing my butt to meet the seat. Bounced up and down several times to feel the cushion. Such goodness. Zulu sat back down. She giggled at me, causing my cheeks to flush as brightly as the queen's makeup. Zulu told me a king's fallen ill, I said. In a sense, yes. Joanna poured me some tea. He's no condition to see anyone right now, so I've been managing the nation instead. Joanna handed me the teacup, which I shifted toward my mouth. The tea burned my lips, but sticking my tongue out would make me look like a dog. So I hung tough and kept sipping. The scorched tongue would surely curse me for it later. I blew on the tea, hoping to cool it off. The aroma of honey and dry leaves wafted in my nostrils. As I have tasted nothing but water for the past decade, this cup of tea might as well be a basket of seafood. Zulu's told me about your friend Sasa, was it? Joanna lowered her head at me. Zulu only did as I asked. If you must blame someone, then please, pick me. I stared at my reflection in a teacup. Tea had cooled somewhat and pressed my palms against the cup to feel its warmth. Should I forgive, or should I point fingers? I no longer even knew who to blame. Joanna took a sip of tea. We want only peace in Vestavia, but if the East threatens us, we must defend ourselves. Fine, I understand. I said, unsure if I really meant it. Is the war still going on? Zulu shook her head. Vestavia is falling apart from within. According to a spy reports, Vestavia has called back the soldiers, Joanna said. Where's Thrasher gone? King Long no longer has confidence in his decisions. Her name was Mion, not Thrasher, I wanted to say, but managed to refrain. I hoped to set an example for Zulu to follow, and acting cranky was no way to go about it. Joanna heaved a sigh. When the leader falls, his nation follows. These tyrants will reduce to savages, stabbing each other in the back just to survive. When I helped Mion escape from the temple, I felt close to becoming the knight Sasa had asked me to be, in exchange for other person's freedom. An entire nation would soon collapse. If I went back now, the villagers might stone me to death. King Log can't even look after one nation, let alone two, I said. Joanna put down her cup. King Log never wanted to conquer Vestavia. Gave a puzzled look and she stroked her chin. Looks like he's kept the story to himself then. Decades ago, an assassin killed King Log's entire family. It happened before you were alive, guy, Joanna said. Only Log, a prince then, survived by hiding in a closet, probably has nightmares about it to this day. To me, Log might be as well another name for the devil. The story made him seem more like a snail crawling under a shell. Perhaps a baby demon still lurked inside the shell, but progress was progress. The king wanted to capture Zulu and make her resurrect his family, Joanna said. Oh, I see. Zulu leaned toward her cup as if wanting to drown in the tea. Attempting to revive one person would exhaust my life force, let alone a whole family. King Log refused to listen and eventually tried to take me by force. It had nothing to do with greed then, at least not in the forms of coins or territory. Sasa had always told me people were more complex than I thought. Did you know about the king's history? Even in death, Sasa, you understood more about life than I did. Joanna beamed at me again. This is your home now, guy. You can rest easy here. I shook my head. You've saved my life, Queen Hydriana, so please accept me as your newest servant. Joanna put a hand over her mouth. Zulu is our nation's treasure, and you are her only brother. A carefree life would only make me feel uneasy, I said. If you refuse, then I'll have to excuse myself from this temple. Zulu grabbed Hydriana's wrist and started tugging it. The sight reminded me of a child begging a parent to buy a toy. I patted Zulu's back to calm her, but I did mean every word about leaving. No way would I give anyone a reason to call me a freeloader behind my back. Joanna slouched in her chair, looking just a tad unqueenly. Very well, guy. I accept the offer. But please, there's no need to strain yourself. So I vowed to strain myself and earn my stay in the temple. Well, that was the plan anyway. A fellow servant dropped one of the plates in the kitchen. As I collected the shattered remains, one of the fragments cut my finger. The servant responsible crumpled on all fours. So guy, I beg your forgiveness. Another servant stepped in and started collecting the pieces in my stead. So guy, please, leave the dirty work to us. Thought the servants might give me a hard time being a new guy and all. Instead we only ever exchanged words when they felt the need to apologize. Sometimes even said sorry for the mistakes I made. Despite the servants reluctant to let me work, continued to snatch every job I could. In time these guys would surely learn to trample me with condescending words. No, they did not have some kind of fetish. Just wanted the servants to open up to me. Several months later my wish, came true. Guy, where are the foods we need for this week? The servant asked. Sorry, I've been held up. Let me go get them now, I said. You better hurry. The queen needs them for her skincare treatment. I shrugged. Age always wins in the end. She might as well just let her wrinkles show. Adriana's head popped in from behind the wall. A twitchy smile suggested if I continued to ramble, she might cut off my skin and blast it over her face. Beautiful as ever today, my queen, said, rubbing my cheeks and confirmed the skin was still attached. Just the way she popped in there, like, that's already happened in this game, but it's just like, this is so much more dangerous and funny. Queen Adriana. Zulu's voice yelled from her room. Must be important as she only ever raised her voice for monumental events like the discovery of a spider eating a mosquito. Come in. Adriana's head retreated behind the wall. Praise the goddess for letting me live another day. At any rate, the servants now treated me as one of their own. I had overheard some of the girls gossiping about my sick fascination with being told off. Let me just go ahead and turn a blind eye. Close a deaf ear in this case. A long day of work, I paid Zulu a visit as I'd promised upon entering her room. Found her on the carpet scratching on a piece of paper. She had enough pages of drawings scattered around the floor to fill a museum. To be honest, the sketches were a disgrace to the gold carpet sitting underneath, but I kept that opinion to myself. Many of the cabinets along the walls were left half opened as always. Mion would have flipped if she saw a room this messy. Thinking back, Zulu probably acted older than her age during our stay in the forest. Most of the time anyway. Seeing her room reminded me she was a child after all. So I walked around to collect the pages. Zulu got up and helped me out. Sorry, brother. I gave Zulu's hand a gentle slap, but decided against giving a lecture on being tidy. Having lived in the forest for so long, she had the right to be spoiled a little. Once we finished packing up the papers, I sat on my knees and Zulu climbed onto my lap. I hope you're alive out there, Zeke, Zulu said. A child like her should be begging for new toys, not pondering about life and death situation. On the hand, Zulu doodled all of these pictures because she missed Nick. I'm sure he started a new life somewhere, sad, but inside I wondered if maggots were feeding on Nick's carcass as we spoke. But I kept these visions to myself. I imagined Zulu might have seen the same nightmares. Zulu looked over her shoulder to pout at me. Why did you come late today? Queen Adriana told you many times to not overwork. Sorry. I brushed Zulu's hair. I assumed telling her the story I had started last night. The breeze whistled in through the curtains and I gazed for a moment at the crescent moon hanging outside. I recalled the time when Sasa told me a story under the same half moon. It was my 7th or maybe 8th birthday, so she let me sit on her lap just as Zulu was at mine now. Sasa might be gone, but his legacy lived on with me. If I passed on her legend, perhaps someday she would become one of the goddesses people prayed to. Zulu's head started to nod from fatigue. I rocked her gently and she soon fell asleep. Sometimes still wondered if Zulu had a mistake, and we in fact had no blood relation at all, but even if that was the case, I still cherished Zulu more than anyone could value as a treasure. I needed no other reason to stay in this temple. So I carried Zulu on the bed. She whispered, Mion gave us the chance to live. We need to make the most of it. I nodded. Otherwise a ghost will come and throw a kiwi at me. And some nights I still wept alone in my bed, dreaming about Mion. Telling Zulu would only worry her, so I kept those feelings to myself. In the past, I'd always wished Sasa would stop bottling her troubles, yet here I was, doing the same thing she did. Maybe 10 years too late, but perhaps I finally understood how she felt. Is this the end? Almost. As the sun rose from beneath the horizon, I broomed the now familiar temple corridors. Waking up before anyone else allowed me to hold my head high throughout the day. I felt like I represented all the servants back in East Taria. Nick did like to compete over the stupidest things, so maybe his competitive streak had gotten to me. The sound of shattering glass echoed from the room beside me, but I was broke inside. I cleaned it up before someone cut himself, pulled the doors open and walked in. Diviana sat by a bed inside the room. This bed was by far the biggest I'd seen in this temple. Flower carvings running across the sides. The table and bookshelf looked just as fancy. Through the bed's curtains I made out a figure of a man. A broken teacup lay on my carpet beside him. The blind shut tight. Nobody from outside could peek in. Not a single ray of light peered through. The darkness shrouded the room as a result. The room also reeked of dust, making me wonder just how long this place had been sealed up. Love, leave me be. Without her, it's all meaningless, the man said. Get yourself some rest. I'll be back later, okay? Joanna eased the man back in the bed as she spun around to leave. She cowered behind the wall. Felt like I'd stumbled in the bathroom when someone inside forgot to lock the door. As Adriana walked out, I swept the floor and yawned to feign ignorance. Always had a hunch that in another life, I might have been a star actor. I'm sorry you had to see that, Adriana said, seeing right through me. Well, I did some acting, clearly belonged in a different life. So now you've met the king, Adriana leaned her back against the wall. It's been this way since we lost our daughter to an illness. Just from one peek, I must agree that the king was in no condition to see anyone. He looked about as fragile as a vase surrounded by cats. Unfair for me to say, perhaps, but it seemed even more unfair for a king to dump all of his duties onto the queen. Trying to manage to smile. Do you think my husband's pathetic? I shook my head even though the queen made a pretty close guess. The Vestarians have always been about another, Joanna said, but that also means when we lose someone, it hurts all the more. That logic must have applied to Joanna as well, yet she still rationed enough strength to glue West in Tarian place. The first surface the queen seemed as soft as a marshmallow, but it was one that had survived the forging and fire. Zulu really can't revive the dead? I asked. Even if she could, it'd be defying nature's order, Adriana said. This is a trial from the goddesses. She want to never force Zulu into using her powers again. Since I know about the king now, I could help you look after him, I said. The queen raised the brow at me. My heart froze as I feared my words might have offended. I mean, you're the one he needs, of course, but you can help with the small things. I merely wanted to repay Adriana. But maybe I should have kept my trap shut. If I spoke out of line against Locke, he would have grilled me with words, or literally grilled me for dinner last night. Adriana, meanwhile, beamed and placed a hand on my wrist. I'll be counting on you then. At night, I stood outside the king's room carrying a plate of chicken and chips. Let me rehearse my introduction one more times. Greetings, my king. I'm Guy, Zulu's brother, and your personal servant from today forward. Okay, Guy, the stage was yours. You start taking a deep breath, pulled the doors open, and marched in. Through the bed's curtains, I saw the king glance my way, but then looked right back at the wall. The flower wallpaper did look quite pretty, so I took no offense and walked up to him pressing my speech. Greetings, my name is Damn it, blamed Locke from a serious case of king phobia. King in bed said nothing, for he could have at least laughed at my blunder. I took offense that he found me less interested in the wall. I load my plate onto a table beside the bed, repeating the word patience in my head while slamming the raw food down. Tiran is worried about you. I hope you'll at least try and eat for her. With a bow, I shuffled out of the room. Only after I left did I realize how fast my heart had been pounding. King Sorrow had drained all the energy from that room. Even the meal's aroma had been spoiled by the dusty stench. I wanted to spank myself for volunteering to help in the first place, but I'd given Tiran my promise. And now I must follow through as an example for Zulu. So this is what I'm gonna save. My voice is just running out. This video has been going longer than I thought, and I'm really running out of voice. I'm sorry, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, have a great one where we're gonna finish this ending, this storyline, and the secret ending that we had when we met the Queen on File 2. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next one. Until then, bye bye.